Laura McDivitt, welcome to MAPS 3. We're glad you're here today. We miss Carol, but we're glad you're here. We know it's the appointed time. We think we need one more for a quorum, so that's what we're waiting on. Do you agree with me about that? Good. Is Kevin going to show the video, or is he just here to?
Yeah, you're going to show everything you saw
Okay.
yesterday or Tuesday.
I told him it was a victory lap. We need to take it.
Is one that we talked about last month, and it is a resolution of recognition of service that for Mike Carrier, and it comes with the unanimous approval of the Convention Center Subcommittee. And Mark, you're going to read the resolution for us? Yes. Thank you.
Whereas Mike Carrier was appointed by the mayor of the city of Oklahoma City and thereafter confirmed by the City Council of Oklahoma City to serve as a member of the MAPS 3 Convention Center Subcommittee on August 3rd, 2010. And whereas Mike Carrier has an extensive background in convention sales and facility management, and whereas Mike Carrier has led the Oklahoma City Convention and Visitors Bureau since August 2007, and as a vital member of the MAPS 3 Convention Center Subcommittee, helped to oversee the ongoing construction of the new MAPS 3 Convention Center. And whereas during Mike Carrier's tenure as president of the Oklahoma City Convention and Visitors Bureau, the organization has experienced considerable growth, and whereas Mike Carrier has retired from a 35-year career in the hospitality industry and has relocated to North Carolina, and whereas Mike Carrier performed his duties as a subcommittee member with excellence and in the best interest of the Oklahoma City and the MAPS 3 Convention Center Subcommittee, and he will be greatly missed. Now therefore be it resolved by the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board and MAPS 3 Convention Center Subcommittee that they do hereby recognize and commend Mike Carrier for his fine contributions as a MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board Convention Center Subcommittee member and for his valued public service in the Oklahoma City tourist industry and community. Adopted by the MAPS 3 Citizens Advisory Board and signed by the chairman this 16th day of December 2021.
Shall we approve it? Bob Nalen has moved that we approve the resolution. It's been seconded by Zane Boatwright. Further discussion? Cast your vote. It has been unanimously adopted, and Mark, you will see that that gets forwarded to Mike, and he's gets a copy of that resolution, right? Thank you very much. Appreciate you all doing that. Next item, item 3, you've been furnished with copies of the minutes of our November the 30th, 2021 meeting. Are there additions or corrections to those minutes? Shall we approve them? It's been moved by Zane Boatwright that we approve them, seconded by Michael Adams. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, cast your vote. It has been passed. Item 4, we have a list of items for individual consideration, beginning with item A, which is the MAPS Revenue and Expenditure Report and the Budget and Obligations Report. David?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have in your packet, in its usual form, the MAPS 3 Revenue and Expenditure Report for the period ending November 30th, 2021. On the revenue side for the month, $1,941. Fiscal year $266,475, and total of $836,531,854. On the expenditures side for the month, $1,866,151, the bulk of that being park construction. Fiscal year of $10,397,410, and total of $754,257,685. You also have the budget and obligations report for the period ending December 6th in its usual form, and if you have any questions, I'll try to answer those.
Questions for David? Shall we receive it? It's been moved by Bob Nalen that we receive the report as presented. Is there a second? Zane Boatwright has seconded. Further discussion? Cast your vote. The item is passed. That brings us to item B, David.
Item B is recommend approval of revised maintenance bond project M3-C003, MAPS 3 Convention Center, 100 McCornett Drive, accepting the project and placing the revised maintenance bond into effect as of June 1st, 2021. It's in Ward 7. So this is the final acceptance of the Convention Center. Very good day. We're glad to be wrapping that up. Kevin Cook is here from Populous, and we're going to just he's got a quick presentation to show everybody how it ended up.
Really appreciate you doing this, and I'm anxious for you guys to see it. Kevin presented this to the Convention Center Subcommittee this week, and we all were feeling really good about the results that have been achieved. So Kevin, welcome.
Great, thank you guys, and happy holidays. Thanks for having me. So we're excited that, it feels a little weird. The Convention Center's been open now for almost a year, doing a lot of great business. It's full and busy, which is what we always wanted to see and hear, and are really glad. So, David said we want you to do a presentation, and I was kind of like, what am I going to show all of you that you haven't already seen? But really, there's some cool stuff at the end here that I am excited to share with you guys, and we'll get through that. But a little bit of this, we're just going to jump through the design evolution of this project, going way back when it started. As you remember, we went through 2 site selection processes. The first one was the top 2 images, where we had the final selection was picked there on the west side of the arena. And then we went back and had to do a second site selection where we ended up picking the East Park site where we are today, which we all know was the right move. It really has helped strengthen that idea of core to shore and development around the new park, which is really awesome. So we went through a lot of iterations of concept design. We did most of this with our subcommittee, and then worked through these. These are different stacking diagrams, the way the layout of the building could work on the site. And then we narrowed that down to 3 specific options that we shared. All different locations for the ballroom is what really stood apart from these 3 options, where the ballroom is in the center, it was more to the north by the hotel, or to the south looking at the park. And we kind of merged all 3 of those into one overall concept idea, which is what you see here and what we have today, with the ballroom up on the top floor, centered with meeting space on each side in the exhibit hall at grade. The other thing we did at concept design with our subcommittee was develop these design principles. We hit on these every time we met with them to try to make sure that we were hitting the items that they thought were most important for this project. From the unique visitor experience to the pedestrian district, to division of shows, the elevated ballroom, urban integration, park connections, the ability to expand and development opportunities. And as we look back at these, I think the project does all of these things today, which is great that we were able to hold these principles and carry them through all the way through construction. So then we move forward into schematic design. You can see it's starting to take the shape that we're all familiar with outside, but it had some unique features to it that were still not worked out at that time. We went a little further in the process, and the building got a little more angular and a little more jagged looking, and then we knew we needed to refine that a little further. The other thing we looked at was the design story for the area, the core to shore vision that the city had, and then the earth, horizon, sky design story that we added for this building. We looked at different precedents around the city for ideas and different materiality that we've seen. We looked at different notions from the earth, which is the ground floor, the horizon, which is the level 2 meeting floor, and the sky, which is the ballroom floor. And that helps create the diagrams on the left, how the form of the building followed the program, the meeting space, the ballroom, and the exhibit hall started to take shape, and then created the planes you see to the right, which is what you guys have today. So as we got into construction, this building broke ground in June of 2018. 6 months later, a lot of that was just clearing the site, working on utility work and foundations. But by December, 6 months later, we started to see things start to pop out of the ground. You had the elevator towers going up. You start to see some steel there at the northwest corner. And then it only took about 6 or 7 months later, and we were at the topping out ceremony of steel. So we had all of the steel pretty much done in about 7 months. Also at that time, one of the major milestones for the project was getting the exhibit hall floor slabs poured. That was a monumental effort for the contractor to get all of that concrete poured in that space underneath an already built structure. This picture I remember was taken at like 2:30 in the morning. So they were working late hours through the night because it was so hot during the day. The concrete was 8 inches thick and needed to be able to cure in the cooler weather. Here we are a year after that, or 6 months after that, I should say, and the building's basically got its shape. The roof is done, the facade is starting to go up, and we're starting to get into the final stretch of getting into the interiors and building it out. So let's look at some exterior views for the project, and it's really interesting to look at some of our original design renderings and kind of compare them to see what was really built out there. So with this aerial, one of the aerial images for the site, and then you get what you guys have today. It's just tremendous to see how this development has happened around the whole building, the hotel, the park, and other things that are now popping up. This was one of our earlier renderings at the northwest corner. You see the big OKC sign. That was something that we ended up not doing, and some other little moves. But that's what you have today, and it's really similar. And it's just really great to see the reflection on the glass from that rendering that was on the previous image, and then you start to see it in person here. And just another view of how the park, once it started to get really, really thick and lush, really just enhances the front door of this building. This is one of the renderings of what it would look like with an event in the park. And there it is today, really similar. It's basically a perfect backdrop for that space. Here we are at the south end, looking north down Robinson Street, and then you get that same view with what was built today. And then the large cantilever over the building, the rendering on the left and the picture on the right, it's really, really impressive to see how far out that corner of the roof sticks out up and over the road. I know our structural engineer likes to say it's an aggressive cantilever for the building, so I think that's a good thing. And then just some of the wonderful views from the park. with the lake in front of it. And then the lighting at night, how this and the hotel and the other buildings in the area start to really talk together with their looks and their lighting. And the 4th Street canopies, which was, one of the additions we added to this building because of some of the additional funds we had. So, to add these additional amenities here on the north side is really, really neat and dramatic. As we get into the interior, we had a lot of renderings trying to show what this volume of space would look like, trying to understand, height and materials. You get a glimpse of the ballroom in this view. You get to see the floor. You get to see the glass. And then here it is today, and you can kind of get that same sense. But the addition that we didn't have in the rendering is that art piece, which is just, phenomenal at both atriums. Having the virtual sky piece in there just fits so perfect in the space. Here's a rendering looking to the south at the ground floor towards the meeting room block. And then there it is today. It's almost hard to see which is different. Up at level 2, looking towards the north meeting rooms. And then what that space is today. The wood and materials and the colors. And just a couple more quick views on the left, a rendering on the right, what's actually there in the atrium space. This is the junior ballroom, how we envisioned it initially, and what you guys have today. This is one of the unique spaces in the building, 10,000 square feet almost of a smaller junior ballroom in essence that can handle a similar type event as the large ballroom. And then this is inside the large ballroom in a rendering, and there it is today. And what's really unique is how that the glass opens up there and gives you that ability to reach out into the pre-function space and then to the balcony. And so here we are at completion. This is an old Google Earth image I found a while back, kind of showing what was out there before all this took place. And a lot of this has to do with the park and everything as well. But you remember there was an old gold OG&E building there to the right and a big substation. Those were big elements of ours that had to get relocated and moved with all these other old buildings and facilities that were not being used in that space. And just what it is today, how this has transformed, it's just amazing to think what's changed and what's in front of this building. There's no other convention center in the country that has a front door with this in front of it, a front yard like this. And then just a quick aerial. We actually had an actual drone aerial shots taken a couple months ago. We wanted to kind of explain how the city's changed with these buildings being put in place. And so here's the aerial from about 3 months ago, and it's just amazing to see how the downtown is reaching south, and now with the new lower part finishing up too, it's going to be even better all the way to the river. So let's hit some statistics real quick. The project budget was $288 million. Construction budget was $194 million. With Flintco, their bid came in at $168 million, so $26 million under budget. The building opened in 2020 December of 2020, and the grand opening was a couple months later in March. On this project, we had 41 total change orders, totaling $14.3 million. But of that, 12.7 of that are added enhancements that you guys were able to put back into the building. This ranges from a new elevator to a distributed antenna system to the new canopies on McCornett Drive and utilities and all sorts of other things that just went in around this building. And to have that extra money there, it just really let you kick things up that much better. And something I'm super proud of the 14.3 million in change orders, only 1.3 were things that we needed to correct or fix in our documentation. And so no documents are perfect ever, but we tried really hard and had the time on this project to really get things done as best as they could be done. And I'm really proud to say that was less than 1% of the total project cost. So that's a really big thing for us. And we had a little bit of fun on this project too. A lot of fun meetings and pictures and construction things. We had the MAPS guys come to our office. We had a lot of presentations here in Oklahoma City and just construction. The pictures on the right are from the topping out ceremony with a handful of our team members and MAPS team. But in the center is our Populous team. We came down in October, finally had the ability to come down as a group and celebrate the opening of this project. And here we are at the rooftop of the social capitol, and it's just amazing to have that. Look, in the background is the building just perfectly in our team picture, so we really love that. So MAPS had a couple of, had a video done, and I'm going to show that here. And then to follow that, we also had a video done, Populous did. So what you'll notice between these two videos is the MAPS video, the building is empty. And so you get a real sense of all the finished spaces and materials. And then our video shows it with some people in it. So let's sit back and watch them. That was right. That one. You're perfect. Leave it. It's fine. So it's really great to see the spaces that actually, you know, the outdoor spaces and some of those people actually were using them and using them the way we had intended them to use them. There were food trucks along the street, like we had worked with the park team to, you know, coordinate and let people be able to leave the convention center and go outside and do some stuff out there. So, you know, just, it's a super success. We're super proud of this building and super proud of what we've helped you guys do here. So that's it, I think, for us on this project.
Questions or comments? Well, I want to make this comment, Kevin. This is not my first time to see the presentation. We had it at the Convention Center Subcommittee this week, and we were all, in David's words, taking a victory lap. We were feeling really great about the timeliness of it, getting it done within the budget, and getting all the enhancements that we had hoped for but didn't know we would get. But I just want to say congratulations to Kevin and the whole Populous team, and to Flintco, and especially to our MAP staff, who have done such a great job in making all this happen. It's been if there was ever a team effort, this is definitely it. And so getting it on time and under budget, and exactly what we promised the taxpayers of Oklahoma City, I think makes us all very proud. And I say thank you for that, Kevin. And I'd like for you to take that back to your colleagues with Populous.
I will do. Thank you very much.
I think it's something we can all be proud of.
It is something
We're
that we
all
could all be proud of. Thank you,
Thank
Kevin.
you.
Really appreciate you coming back to be with us today.
Chair, I just wanted to ask a question. I know he's walking off from me. Come on back. I had a quick question. I'm so sorry. I wanted to say I loved at the beginning how we expressed what we were looking for as far as those 3 layers or 3 floors. And to me, that brings more meaning to the Narduli art project. So I'm wondering how we can define and even more publicly talk about how those layers coincide with the city, if that makes sense, those different floors, because I think we see the names on the floors or the rooms, but for there to be a definition of why, those rooms and those names are such, I think would bring more meaning as far as to why the project turned out the way that it did.
Yeah, well, some projects, and not all of them, but some people like to, in a plaque or some sort of symbol to explain the design story for buildings and projects. And with those 2 art pieces together, when someone comes and visits, they could kind of read that story a little bit and learn a little bit more. That would be one way to do it, but it really just needs to be the right people there to tell the story, so if people ask the question, they have an answer for them.
So I guess my question now is to Mr. Todd, is there a way for us to work through just maybe some type of conversation of what that looks like for this particular convention center? Because clearly that is the story of this convention center as far as the design. And I think people would be interested in understanding the design of it.
Okay, I can get with Gooden and we can try to come up with something.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thanks again, Kevin. Thank you for being here. We appreciate all the good work you guys have done. That brings us then to item B, David.
We need to vote on that last.
Oh, all right. We need to vote on that. All right. It has been moved by Zane Boatwright that we approve it, seconded by Michael Adams. Is there further discussion? Cast your vote. Unanimously approved. Thank you. All right, item E, David?
Item C
C,
is
item C,
recommend
yeah.
approval of preliminary report project M3-F003, M4VF001, Maps 4, Fairgrounds Coliseum, 333 Gordon Cooper Boulevard, and Ward 6. So if you recall, the Maps 3 funds are being used for the design piece of the Coliseum, but the actual construction dollars come out of Maps 4. So we're bringing you the preliminary report today. Travis Pauley from Populous also is here today to go through the preliminary report with you.
Hi,
Morning.
Travis. Had you ever met Kevin before?
Briefly, but we haven't worked a lot together, so.
Big company.
It's really neat to be able to come up here and back-to-back show you guys both of these projects and have such a successful project with the Convention Center Maps 3, and hopefully lead straight into an equally successful project for the first project in Maps 4, so we're excited to talk to you guys about it. Here we go. So we were here last week giving you guys a design update on this. So a lot of this will be really familiar content for you guys, but hopefully some new content as well. So we'll run through this. This one is for the preliminary report approval. So we do have a little bit of additional content in here that we'll walk through. So we'll just go ahead and get started. Just to give us a sense of place as we get started, we all know where we are out at the fairgrounds. Just a couple points to note here. We got I-44 running on our west corridor there, and I-40 on our south. And our main entry is right there off of May Avenue on Gordon Cooper Boulevard, which you can see with that orange arrow. As we zoom in to our immediate project site, we've got the Norick Arena, which we're replacing, as well as the Super Barn just north of that, and the Bennett Event Center right adjacent to our project. We all know about the Norick, built in 1965. Currently has the largest economic impact of any public facility in OKC. That thing is full all year round with horse shows, livestock events, sporting events, and all kinds. We call it the horse show capital of the world, so a big impact on that project there, as well as high school basketball graduations, wrestling, and other events like that. Approximately 8,000 seats in the current facility, and as we know, it has reached the end of its current life. The new Coliseum is planned to go directly southeast abutting the Norick. The intention of this location is that we want to keep the Norick operational throughout the construction of the new Coliseum. We've got long-term contracts there at the Norick that we don't want to interrupt, and so the intent is to keep that operational throughout the construction of the new Coliseum. And then once that new Coliseum is ready to go, to take down the existing Norick Arena. You can see a couple of our big utility restrictions there. That's kind of what guided how far away from the Norick we could pull that Coliseum, as well as the shape of the new Coliseum was guided by that a little bit. So you can see a little bit of overlap with the existing Norick Arena. So that leads me into the phases that this will be done in. We'll have 4 phases. The first one will be the selective demolition and temporary construction of that entry area where we are overlapping the Norick, and a relocation of some of those egress and entry elements to the north side of the building. The second phase will be the construction of the new Coliseum. And along with that, we will have a temporary connector that will connect the Super Barn to the Coliseum during the demolition of the Norick. The third phase would be the demolition of the Norick Arena. And the fourth phase there is the finish out of the site work where the Norick used to be, as well as the reconstruction of a new show office there connected to the Super Barn that is currently housed inside the Norick Arena. So as we zoom into our site plan here, you can see our built structures there in orange and our surrounding plaza spaces and green spaces. You can see our entry coming off of Gordon Cooper Boulevard there on the right side of your screen. It's going to be a really nice entry sequence as you come in off of that main entrance and are greeted right there with the entry to the new arena, as well as the Bennett Center right there adjacent to it to kind of cap off that Gordon Cooper Boulevard entry sequence right there. On the north side, we've got our flexible plaza space that leads out to the fairgrounds, our entry plaza there on the east, and then on the south side is kind of our more utilitarian functions with our loading dock and chiller yard. On the east, or on the west end, we've got a little bit of a blank slate there with just some simple paving and a concrete a sod pad, knowing that that's where our future connector building will be that will connect the Super Barn to the new arena. As we zoom into our floor plans here, we've got 2 floors on this building, a main event level floor that's on the ground level that you see here, and then the concourse level above that, which is where the public access to the stands will be. So I'll kind of start on the right side here at our main lobby and walk our way around some of the major spaces. As we enter the building on the right side, we've got our ticket office there in green, as well as a retail space directly above that. Up on the north side, the top of the screen there, we've got our locker spaces and kitchen. Our north lobby is on the upper left of your screen. We've kind of got 2 lobbies to this building, which is one of the things that makes it unique. The one on the main lobby on the right side is where the public entry and the ticketed access will be. The north lobby there on the left side is where competitors and people coming from the Super Barn and the fair side will enter into the building. Just below that, we have our back of house north area. That big back of house area leading straight into our arena floor is one of the things that kind of makes this unique and helps keep this as that premier spot for horse shows, livestock shows, and things like that. That's where they'll set up their events. They'll have the rodeo set up and different type of pinning in that area. Competitors will go through the arena floor there and then out that back of house south on the right side, and then back around the return alley that you see there on the bottom of the screen. That nice big return alley is another thing that really sets this arena apart for those types of events. And then there on our south side is a lot of our utilitarian functions, storage, maintenance, loading docks, and things like that. As we get up on the concourse level, big main grand staircase there on the right side of your screen leads to a nice big open concourse on that end. We'll have vendor spaces there on the right side of your screen, as well as our big main public bar there in purple, kind of on the south side of that grand stair. Coming around the concourse, it's really a pretty efficient plan here. It's mostly comprised of concession stands, which we've located in the 4 quadrants of the building, as well as restrooms, and then some premium spaces like the lounge space that you see there on the left side that leads into the loge seating, and the suites that you see on your lower right side. We've got a small video production there on the right side as well that'll be housed just perfectly to get a good view of all the competitors coming in, as well as any in-stage events that happen on that left side. We know this is a multi-purpose arena, so just showing you a few of the functions that we can have and how that varies in the amount of seats and occupants that we have in the building. Our standard equine and livestock setup is there shown on the upper left with about 5,000 seats. And that can expand out to about 8,000 seats with a basketball or concert arena that you've got, or concert setup that you've got shown there on the right side. And then getting into the architectural form and the design of the building, we really, when we reimagined this thing with the new MAPS 4 budget, we took a step back, and once we had the floor plan we knew we liked, we kind of started from scratch and laid a really simple and efficient structure on top of this thing, and started to extrude those lines up from the floor plan to give it some shape and give us a starting point of a really efficient envelope to go from. And from there, you can see kind of the progression on these 3 images. On the third one, we start to delineate some of the shapes. We start to integrate roof wells to house mechanical equipment more efficiently, windows and things like that. And then we start to think about our materials. We're in the State Fairgrounds campus, so we want to be considerate of their palette of materials that are out there right now, consisting mostly of masonry on the bottom and light upper metal panels on the upper portions, as well as what kind of new materials do we need to bring to this building. We knew we wanted something that is economical, flexible, and durable on this building. So we're looking at materials like these phenolic panels that you see here that can meet all those criteria. And then just the inspiration of the project. What do we want those panels and those materials to look like? So we took inspiration from the Native American and Western patterns that we see throughout the state here in Oklahoma and out there on the fairgrounds. You see some of those on the left and right side of your screens, as well as just that movement and motion that occurs within the fairgrounds Coliseum with the events that we have, which you can see there in the middle with the equine rider and the basketball player. So those all came together to result in the building that you see here today in front of you, and that is in the preliminary report that you're being presented with. You can see those phenolic panels and that pattern, that influence of those patterns on the upper portion of the building. That's really our defining feature of the building there, and it's grounded with that masonry base that you see there on the bottom. Really durable. That's why that's seen so much throughout this State Fair campus. With all the equipment and animals that we have around here, durability is a really key element to these buildings out here. So having that base both grounds that upper element, but also acts as a really functional building material for us. As we wrap around the south and west sides, that paneling continues around the side. We've integrated kind of a nice graphic element with a big OKC there that you can see on the left. Something really large scale that we would hope you can see from the I-40 and I-44 as you're coming around the building on the highway, as we saw there in that first slide. And then we've got a nice big flexible open plaza space facing the fairgrounds side. So leaving that nice and open so they can bring their trailer exhibits or any type of fair exhibits or vendors that they want into that space and utilize it in a number of different ways. As you enter in the building, you're greeted with a nice big open full height lobby space that will open up to the concourse above. We'll be able to see up to the concourse and down below into the lobby space in that area. And then our main bowl. We've got about 5,000 seats, permanent seats, as you can see here in this layout. A little bit over 50-foot clear height to our structure above, which allows us to do any of the events that we want to have in this facility. And then we've got some of those premium spaces like our lounge space on the north west end of the building that we've integrated along with our suites. So right now, construction budget for this project is $84 million. Our latest estimate puts us just under that. We are carrying 5 alternates currently. Those are all equipment and signage alternates. And with all of them, I won't go through each of them in detail, but with all of them, basically what we've tried to do is parse out what are the elements within that package that are essential for the building to operate, and we've included those in the base bid, and then we've broken out a portion that are kind of the extras that we know we want to include in the project, but right now we've split them off for budgetary purposes as part of the alternate. So for the signage package, for instance, for example, we've got all of our code and wayfinding signage that will be required for the building to operate is in the base bid. It's the extra decorative signage and graphics packages that are in the alternate. And then our anticipated schedule. We are obviously hoping to get the preliminary report approved here today and next week in December of 21. That'll put us starting on our final construction documents next year in January. That planning and review period will take us into, and permitting period will take us into July, when we'll start bidding. Bidding will happen in August, and then construction is planned to start in September of 22. In latest conversations with the fair, I believe the hope is that they can operate this next fair with the existing fairgrounds as it is before it gets under construction, and as soon as that is completed, then kick off construction. So that should time out pretty well for them. So that's where we are today. Hopefully that gives everybody a pretty quick explanation of where we are and what is in the preliminary report, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
I actually have a couple, if you don't mind. One, the first question is, we are going to lose quite a bit of parking from this being constructed in that area. And we know how condensed parking is pertaining to special events. So I'm curious to know what we are going to do to ensure that we're replacing most or all of those parking places for folks to be able to participate.
Yeah, they have expanded parking in other areas south and west for the fairgrounds events. We have not heard that as a concern from the fairgrounds, the loss of parking that they're having there for their events. That's never been a concern that I've heard from anybody at the fairgrounds as far as the reduced level of parking that they have for those events. We can definitely check with them and see if that is a concern and look at those expanded parking spaces to the south and west of the railroad as potential opportunities to accommodate for that.
So part of what helps with that is some of the work that we did, I don't know, 8 years ago, along with the Bennett, is that we did all that parking that's, I get turned around out there kind of south and east by the Bennett.
Where the racetrack used to be.
Right, we added, I don't know how many hundred spaces in there, and that was part of their master plan. So we've got all new parking back in there that if there's just strictly an event for the Coliseum, there's tons of parking in there. If it's for the fair, you know, they always have the perimeter parking and everything. So it's part of their master plan.
Okay. Well, as a spectator and a person who goes at least to the fair, even with parking, it's not the best as far as accommodating for everyone during those couple weeks, but I understand, especially for these types of events. My second question, and I know we kind of talked a little bit about this last month, with this being opened in 1965 and seating 8,000, we're literally at square one with this new building accommodating the same amount of people. Was the goal initially to increase capacity for spectators, or was it just for us to ensure we had a barn and services and outside things for folks to be a part of that equestrian part of what this is bringing to capacity for that? And maybe I'm not understanding, but it seems to me when we just had a presentation about a convention center that is to accommodate more people. Here we have Fairgrounds Coliseum that's just going to accommodate the same amount of people, depending on what kind of a project or event that you have.
Yeah. So the goal with this one, it's a little bit of a unique arena when you look at all of the types of projects we do and the types around the country. The goal with this one wasn't necessarily to increase capacity. The bread and butter events, as you could call them, of equine and livestock shows out there, those aren't necessarily ticket-driven, spectator-driven events. Most of them aren't even ticketed. Those are events that the money that comes from those and the drivers of those are the people that are there for 2 or 3 weeks at a time that are renting out stalls, that are going to hotel rooms, restaurants, things like that, and renting out those stalls in those barns and coming to exhibit the livestock and their horses and things. Right now, they are not filling that arena up. And so there's not a need to increase the capacity of that. For all the events that we have planned in this should be more than adequate capacity. And so the intent is to improve the user experience there, not necessarily to build a building that we don't necessarily need to fill up, but improve our experience, what they're able to offer, the quality of services that they're able to offer, the premium amenities that they aren't able to offer right now, and just to replace a building that is on its last legs and doesn't have much more life in it. But yeah, and that's something that we see all over the country, depending on the project type, is that it's not necessarily always about getting as many seats as you can these days. It's about the quality of the seats. I mean, we'll go into some arenas and stadiums and actually reduce capacity but improve the user experience because it's a better experience for that general audience or that client. So with this project, that wasn't necessarily the goal to increase capacity. It was to improve the quality of the experience and have the appropriate number of seats for this setting.
Okay, I think maybe one of my other, it's not really a question, but I guess my ask would now be, I would like to really hear from the fairgrounds to understand maybe, and I know we roll off every year as far as the council members, so maybe that conversation has begun and I wasn't a part of that, but just again, a refresher from the fairgrounds to understand what they were wanting out of this particular, this development, should I say, of this arena. Because I know in past conversations when we've gone to visit or tour the Coliseum and or the state fairgrounds, those conversations in my thoughts were previously that they wanted to improve both, as far as capacity and clearly with it being on its last leg to make sure that people come because it's a different type of arena. So those are my concerns as far as right now, trying to really say I'm very confident in my vote in favor of a preliminary report unless I am able to see and understand what they have asked for as well. So that's just my reservation. I know this is a recommendation from the committee, from that subcommittee, but just for my personal thoughts, I would like to understand that a little better.
So the operator, the chairman of the fairgrounds is on the subcommittee, and he's seen all this. If we move this forward, it'll come to council next week, and Travis will be giving a presentation. I can have the fairgrounds there to speak to that if you'd like.
Bob, you want to?
Yeah, I might comment, the last couple of meetings of the Fairgrounds Subcommittee we've not had a quorum to take official action, but Tony Toole, who is the president of the State Fair, is a subcommittee member, and two of the other members who regularly attended are members of the State Fair Board. And so they've all been involved in this all the way along in terms of looking at the design and working with Populous. I think ADG before that in terms of the design. I would echo what Travis has said, that I don't think there's been any concern expressed. I've not heard any concern expressed as these plans have moved along about capacity. And I might share, I have benefit now in our MAPS 4 discussion and looking at the downtown arena. Some of the discussion has been that NBA venues around the country are reducing capacity because, as Travis said, the goal is not to just pack as many people in there as you can, because oftentimes the seats are not filled, but to improve the experience of those who do attend. And so, yeah, Mike, money. Yeah, you actually generate more revenue That way, if you reduce capacity slightly but create spaces that people really enjoy to be in, and that's part of the design theory in the Coliseum, the fairgrounds as well, that we're not really losing any capacity, but a lot of that capacity isn't used all the time anyway. And so there's ample capacity for the events that go on there. And this design is really intended to improve the experience of those who attend, so that there are more amenities, there's more space to move around. It's a more comfortable environment if you're attending an event there, rather than just counting the number of heads that walk in the door.
And yeah, that part I definitely understand, and I think of a couple of events in particular that I've been a part of that have been sold out, you know, going to the arena that happen once a year. So it's even now trying to understand for those folks who maybe could not have the opportunity to go at a prior time, what's going to happen as far as those types of events are concerned, if that makes sense. So I'm happy to, right now, to hesitantly vote for it, but I would like to see, Mr. Todd, if we can, I would like to meet with Mr. O'Toole separately and just get some understanding on the background before this goes to council. Thank you.
I guess I would comment or ask too, and David, this is probably not for you, but you know, it seems to me like historically we've had the Fairgrounds Arena for 5,000 to 8,000 people events. We've had Cox Center that filled kind of an intermediate attendance, and we've had then Chesapeake or Paycom Arena for the larger concerts and events there. And we've lost the Cox Center now, so we don't have anything. We have a big gap, it seems like, from an 8,000 seat to a 20,000 seat or whatever Paycom is. And we don't have anything for those intermediate size events now. And so I guess I would have also kind of thought that the idea with the new arena at the fairgrounds was make it a little bit bigger to kind of be able to take on some of those 10 or 12,000 seat events.
Right, so one of the things that...
I don't know what the city's plans are in that regard, but that was kind of a thought in the background.
I can tell you that some of the plans is to make it easier to make the Paycom Center more divisible and reduce capacities in there without it looking empty. So, you know, curtaining certain areas or cutting it in half. We saw some of those during interviews this week. So that's really the plan.
So that's kind of how the city's approaching this intermediate size arena event, is just to...
Right, it's not so much the city, but it's the promoters and the people.
Well, I mean, the city's provided these venues in the past. And we have a gap, it seems to me like a gap now for an intermediate size venue, and I didn't know what the...
Well, let's look at it in perspective too. In 1965, as far as I remember, I was a child back then, but
I was at a basketball game in the new arena.
you had the Civic Center and you had fairgrounds. That's
was
all
the big
there
one,
were.
yeah.
And like you point out, we've grown since then. And then there's also private venues that take some of those intermediate shows. So I'll be glad to have Mr. Toole contact you.
Okay, other questions, other comments? All right, then, shall we approve the recommendation to approve the preliminary report? It's been moved by Bob Nayland, we approve it, seconded by Zane Boatwright. Is there further discussion? Cast your vote. It is passed unanimously. Thank you. Let's go to item D, David.
Item D is recommend approval of final acceptance project M3T005, Maps 3, West River Trail realignment, vicinity of West I-40 Service Road, Melvin Young Boulevard, and Southwest 8th Street, and placing the maintenance bond into effect. If you will recall, this is the small piece of realignment because of the significant erosion we had at the West River Trail. The project is complete, and this comes with the approval from the Trails and Sidewalks Subcommittee.
Questions for David? D. Morales has moved that we approve it. It's been seconded by Bob Nayland. Is there further discussion? Cast your ballot. It is passed. Item E, David.
Item E is recommend approval of change order number 4, project M3H002B, MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center number 1, additional improvements, 11501 North Rockwell Avenue, increase of $41,661. So there's 3 things on here, pretty much routine construction items, sanitary sewer modification, structural footing revision, and then new storm sewer. The new storm sewer is the biggest item, so whenever they pulled off the curb to build adjoining asphalt in there for the additional parking, there's a low spot in the parking lot, and we don't want water ponding in there, so this is some additional storm sewer that goes out there and grabs that and gets it to the storm sewer system.
All right. That, did we have any recommendation from the subcommittee?
Those present recommended we send it on.
All right. Further discussion? Been moved by Zane Boatright that we approve this, seconded by Nikki Nice. Further discussion? Cast your vote. It has been passed. Item F, David?
Item F is recommend approval of change order number 4, project M3H004, project MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center number 3, 3820 North Lincoln Boulevard, increase of $4,131.08 in Ward 7. Again, some pretty common construction issues. There's a door hardware revision. Wanted to replace the panic hardware on there, put the panic hardware on those 5 doors for $1,200. There's a storage shed in the back that didn't realize we didn't have a light in, so we're adding a light to that storage shed. And then there's a time extension at no cost, but due to weather days from June through November of this year, adding 24 days to the schedule, but again, at no cost.
Questions for David? D. Morales has moved we approve it, seconded by Nikki Nice. Further discussion? Cast your vote. Item G, David?
Item G is recommend adoption of resolution authorizing the use of excess collections and/or interest to fund the paving development in the amount of $732,000, project M3-H004, project MAPS 3 Senior Health and Wellness Center number 3, 3820 North Lincoln Boulevard, in Ward 7. So remember that Wellness Center 3 is part of the larger development with the Homeland there, and we did an agreement with Homeland to do all the improvements that are in there. So Homeland built the paving that's all in there. As part of that agreement, we paid our line item in the budget, the $1.2 million, towards that development. And then because the developer for the Homeland was building the paving, we calculated how much the paving was worth, and we were to provide that as our part of the overall project. And we were to subtract that from our budget. And we failed to do that. The MAPS office made a mistake. We did not take that out of the budget, and when the bids came in, we awarded the project, and we recommended awarding it based on the old budget. So we were actually $732,000 long on that. We still have to meet our obligations with that development agreement, so we have to have the $732,000 to pay that. We've only got about $300,000 in contingency right now for the Wellness Center, and I really want to keep that because things are going to come up. They just do. So that's why I'm asking for excess collections and interest. We have about $2.9 million in that account right now. So again, this is on me, but luckily we have a remedy for this as I'm proposing here with excess collections.
I take it we have a legal obligation under contract to pay our part of that with the developer?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Other questions?
I'm a little confused. So the budget that we approved and the plans we looked at, we didn't have any costs in there for a parking lot?
We did. We did, but we calculated the cost of that parking, and we were to provide that to the developer and to the Homeland project as our portion of that development. Then we were supposed to take that out of our budget for the building that we bid, and we neglected to do that. So we had an extra $732,000
Yeah.
in there.
So is the parking lot around the building itself we built, and this is our share of the common parking lot, or? Because we had a parking lot in the building, in the plans we approved, I think.
Right,
Okay.
but that was all built by the Homeland developer, and this is our share, our cost for that. So all the parking's in right now,
Right.
and it was done by a third party.
And the budget we approved didn't have a parking lot in it.
The budget we approved still had our parking money in it, and it shouldn't have. And when you say the budget we approved, what,
Well, I mean, we had plans and a bid, a construction bid, and it didn't have a budget, it didn't have a parking lot in it.
right, we didn't bid the parking lot, so we were
Okay.
supposed to take that money out.
I guess I was using budget, I meant bid.
Yeah.
The bid didn't include a parking lot. Okay.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Other questions for David? Shall we approve it? It's been moved by Zane Boatright that we approve it. It's been seconded by Bob Nalen. Is there further discussion? Cast your vote. It's passed unanimously. That brings us to item 5. Is there any new business, David, or our members? All right. Item 4, we've heard from most of the subcommittees today. Any subcommittee want to be heard?
Yes, Tom, I just wanted to let you know that the Trails and Sidewalk Subcommittee did meet yesterday, and we received a presentation on the realignment for the West River Trail.
Yes.
Very successful realignment. It was approved. We already had citizens that attended our subcommittee meeting and members that have already been using the new realignment trail. They're very happy with it.
Well, that's just great. All right. Any others? David, is there anything that you want to add from what we've already covered today?
Lower Park construction's still going well, and pleased with its progress.
Great. All right. Are there any comments by the board? Any staff? Are there any citizens here that want to be heard today? Have we had anyone request to be heard, ladies? We have not. In that case, we've completed our agenda, and we will stand adjourned. Thank you.
Happy holidays to everybody.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Do you want me to just have